Hey, I'm Andrew from andrewcbancroft.com. I use table views fairly often in my examples, so I've decided to create a short walkthrough of how to set up a table view in Swift. Think of this as the hello world of creating a view controller with a table view. In this walkthrough, I'm using Xcode 6.3.1, which has me writing Swift 1.2 syntax in a couple of spots. Alright, to get started, I'm going to drop into the search bar of the object library, which is in the Utilities pane. I'm going to be hunting for a table view. Now, once I've narrowed down the results and located the table view control, I'll click and drag one onto my storyboard scene. With the table view in place, filling the entire scene, I'll Control-click, and then I'll drag up to the yellow view controller icon to wire up my table view's data source, and then the delegate properties. Now I need to connect the table view to my view controller source file. To bring up the Assistant Editor, I'll option-click the View Controller source file in the Project Navigator. With the table view and the source side by side, once again I'll Control-click the table view and drag over to the View Controller source file to create an IB outlet property for my table view. Next up, I need to specify that my View Controller class will conform to the UI Tableview Datasource and the UI Tableview Delegate protocols. Of course, at this point, I haven't actually implemented any of the required protocol methods, so I get a compile error saying so. I've written up a handy UI Tableview Datasource cheat sheet over at my website, andrewcbancroft.com. I'll go grab the code and paste it into my view controller now. So here I am at andrewcbancroft.com. It's funny because I've searched my own blog, but I've searched for a UI Tableview Datasource and located my own cheat sheet. Scrolling down, I find the code I need, and I switch the code snippet plugin to the raw mode. I select everything, and I copy. Switching back over to my Xcode window, I paste the code snippet in. As I mentioned in the beginning, this walkthrough can be thought of as the hello world of a table view setup, so we're not going to be real fancy here. With that in mind, for now, I'll create a data source array with some dummy data in it just to get things compiling and displaying data. Now that I've got the data source geared to go, I need some cells to display data in. For this task, I'll close the Assistant Editor. Next, I'll click to open the document outline. I find that working with the view hierarchy is much easier to manipulate using this outline rather than clicking in the storyboard scene and trying to select the right thing. I'll select the table view and open the Utilities pane to get access to the Attributes Inspector. I'm going to configure this table view to have one kind of prototype cell. Increasing the prototype cells count added a new node to the document outline's view hierarchy. I'll expand the table view and click on the table view cell to do a little bit more configuration. I'll set the style to basic. Then I'll give it an identifier of basic cell. Now I need this basic cell string for one of my other data source protocol methods, so I'll select it and copy it. Back in my viewcontroller.swift source file, I'll paste that basic cell string as the argument to DQ reusable cell with identifier. The last step to get things wired up is to set the cell's textLabel.text property. I'll use the data source array's values here. Simply indexing into the array at the indexPath.row value that's currently being rendered in the table view will grab the string out of the array and assign it to the textLabel.text property of the cell. When I run the app and observe the table view's behavior, I'm not quite satisfied. The status bar overlaps the rows and makes the text hard to read. Additionally, the table view doesn't extend all the way to the bottom when I run it in the iPhone 6-sized simulator. I'll stop the app and make an adjustment in the storyboard. Selecting the table view from the document outline will allow me to grab the top edge and drag the height downward slowly until it snaps into place where the bottom of the status bar would be. Next, I'll set some constraints. Within the document outline, I'll Control-click and drag from the table view to the view and set constraints for top space to top layout guide, center horizontally, center vertically, and equal widths. Running the app one more time gives me the behavior that I want. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks. I have other resources related to Swift and iOS development at andrewcbancroft.com, and you can find me on Twitter at andrewcbancroft.